So, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. I hope it is well. Welcome back to another episode of the Mellow Mood Podcast. So, today it's all about the music. Let's get this closed out real quick. Just a quick disclaimer for everybody who is listening to this, as in got your phone locked and you're going on a super long trip. Today is going to be fairly visual oriented. I am going to show a couple vinyl records. As far as that goes, that'll probably be about the extent of the video portion of this. Still, you can hear me kind of talking about what's going on and everything. But today is all about music. Today is the life of a struggling musician. My biggest influences as a musician, the story of how I got into it, what my experiences have been like as a musician since I started playing when I was around 13 or 14 out, and also just some vinyl collection that I have as well. Sorry about how messy this setup is. I know that this is pretty jarring as far as setup goes as well, of course. I'm doing this by ear, week by week, so I'm just doing the best I can. I just built this desk to kind of help with the two sets of hands setup. If you guys haven't heard, I run an eBay store. It's called Two Sets of Hands. We buy, sell, trade Pokemon cards and memorabilia alike. If you guys are interested in checking any of that stuff out, it's at Two Sets of Hands, and all socials are also at Two Sets of Hands because we open the cards on camera. So anyways, let's do the first thing that I want to get out of the way. Let's talk about what it's been like as a musician. So if you watched podcasts up to this point on the Mellow Mood podcast channel, you'll know, and I believe it was episode 3 when I did it by myself, may have been episode 4. I talked about, sorry about bumping that. I talked about getting into music and being heavily inspired by my grandmother and Kristen, playing Guitar Hero. And I just so basically what happened was one day I finally had decided that my grandmother was not big enough of an audience. And just to kind of do a fun callback to that, at the very end of this podcast, if you hang tight, I promise I will play one song for the first time on the outside of the original Flip H Cheese YouTube channel. I will perform a song. So yeah, I decided that I've had enough. I want to get out and do this. So I met up with the only local musicians that I knew at the time. A guy named Derek Guy. I honestly, we don't speak. We haven't spoken in years. We didn't really talk that much back then, but I just knew that he played guitar because every guy shows off, not Derek Guy, pun intended. But every dude that I know, when you learn how to play guitar, you want to show everybody that you know that you play guitar, and he had kind of done it around school and stuff, and I was like, dude, that looks so much fun. I want to do that. And I, kind of talked to him a little bit, and I was like, so what would I have to do to kind of do what you do? How did you get the confidence to do this in public? And he kind of just told me, practice until you're comfortable, and then if you want an audience, you need to be receptive for honest feedback. And I practiced maybe 3 months and then just did it. Just hopped in. Still to the day, I consider myself a guitar player before a singer. A lot of people locally associate me. I don't know what's going on. Associate me with being a singer and a vocalist. People all the time ask me to sing, and I'm bashful. I just don't like doing it. I just don't like my voice. I think that's just a big thing that comes with the territory, honestly, but everybody's self-conscious about something. But I still consider myself a guitar player because of everything that I explained in the past couple podcasts. Just a quick synopsis. When my granny had cancer, I started playing guitar because she loved to hear me play. So that was basically like the super fast origin story of all that. So I kind of played around like the city and played for my parents, and I created the Flip Hates Cheese YouTube channel in August of 2010. So August will be the 10-year anniversary of the creation of the YouTube channel, which has never and will never be able to make money, because when I was 14, I was an idiot and applied for the Google AdSense program and went and spammed refresh at my granddad's house. Don't want to think about it. Could have been making money on YouTube for a very long time, but haven't and never will, because I'm banned on that account. So we'll see how all this stuff goes in the future. But anyways, so let's basically flash forward to my first show. It was at the Tea Room in Hartford, Alabama, and I opened for a band that at the time I didn't appreciate and honestly kind of hated, just because, I don't know, anything that wasn't what I liked was not good. And in hindsight, they're a super talented group of guys. They were called Pink for President. They're still making music. I'm super proud to say that I've played with them once or twice, and I am proud to say that they are my friends, and I happily promote their music. Check out Pink for President if you haven't heard them, and if you're local, I'm sure you have. They blew up for a little while locally. And then after them, there's a band called Surefire, and that was my first, like, oh my God, of music I've ever experienced. There was this band, they played Metallica. Their lead singer's name was Michael. I have him on my Facebook. He's super inactive. I don't think they play anymore. They changed their name to something else. I don't even know what's going on. But long story short, that put the fire under my rear end. I was ready. After I heard Surefire play, it changed my life. Unironically, just genuinely changed my life forever. Hearing Surefire play some Metallica songs, I just could not believe that something could sound so amazing and raw. So after that show, I was like, I just got to find places that have music. So my buddy Andrew, his stepfather played in a Christian band. So they were playing at a place called Featured Players downtown. I went with them to this little talent show thing that they had, and for the first few years of being a musician, the biggest thing for everybody was, like, I was 13 and I was trying to play out. So everybody was super supportive and almost looked at me as like some sort of like child prodigy or something. It was very weird. It was a very strange experience all throughout, like 15, 16, 17, and 18 years old. Like up until I was at least 17, maybe even into 18. Everywhere that I played, which I'll get to how I came about doing that, and how, if you're an aspiring musician, how you would go about it locally, or if you wanted to take some advice from me, I'll tell you what I did. So, but everybody was like overly supportive. So when I came to the age that I am now, that the musicians that were playing out were that age when I was that, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm the age of the people that were playing out when I was 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. So everywhere I went, everybody wanted me to come back. Any place that I walked into and asked to play, they were like, oh my God, yes, I love you. Your music is amazing. And I look back at my music in 2010 up until like 2018 at the earliest, maybe even 2019, my music is pathetic. I mean, it was pitiful. It was not good. I went through college with an understanding that I was one of the better of the musicians around here, and I simply wasn't. I don't know what people saw in me at that point. Maybe it was just how much passion I had, and honestly, it's insane to me that music was my life. Music still is everything to me. Without music, I would be absolutely nothing. I would be just a pool of just depression. I mean, it has saved my life. It has given me purpose. it has made me countless friends that I will have for the rest of my life, and I'm eternally grateful just for what music is to me. It is my heart. It is my soul. It is everything I am. I just don't know what people saw in me at that point. Maybe it was that. Maybe that was what people saw, and they appreciated it. So basically, after Featured Players, when everybody was like, "Oh my God, dude, yes," to me, I asked my parents for advice, and they were like, I mean, if you don't know if a place has music, just go and ask. So I went to the place that I was working when I was in college, and just walked into a place called Cheeseburger. Shout out to Billy Snell, by the way. I played at his daughter's wedding. It was my first wedding, and I did not tell him that. But I asked him if they had music in Enterprise, and he said yeah. So, well, he said no, but he wanted to. He said, yeah, I want to have some music. I want to try it. So I basically went out there and played for free, and then from there got a little bit of confidence because I had a couple friends that came out there and watched me play, and it was just a super amazing experience. So I saw a sign outside that said "Seeking Musicians" in front of a place called Taj in Dothan. And while I don't have very many good things to say about that entire experience, I will say that I will be grateful to them forever, because that was my first basically contracted musical job. He wanted me to come once a week, play at his Enterprise store, sometimes on Saturdays go play at the Dothan store, which is the busier one, the restaurant rather. And it was beautiful. I mean, I was doing what I loved, and I worked hard at it. I didn't have any money for a tablet. I was using equipment that was given to me. I painted my mother's house and cleaned up and did some yard work for about $200 for my first PA that I got from, I guess he's my uncle's father. He's my uncle-in-law's father, if that makes sense. But I guess he would technically be my, what is that? Who cares? Great uncle-in-law. Who cares? I got my PA from him. But I was playing out there, and I'm not ashamed to say this now because I don't play ever anymore. I was making $50 a night, and vocal crack. Sorry. I was playing for $50 a night, and I was living my best life. Honestly, I was in a long relationship for me at the time. I was playing every single weekend. I was playing basketball on weekdays every day. I was in college, and I was the only recognized guitar player at the college. I mean, I could not have been in a better place. And this is right before my dad dies, by the way. But, so, there's one night, and before I start this story, it involves a man named Rick Craven. And I do not want to promote any sort of harassment towards his family. He recently just passed away, but this is a necessary part of this story. And I need to tell this, and I'm sorry, I do not mean to disrespect his memory. I genuinely mean that. I respect what he did for the music scene in Dothan, and that's all I can say about it. I am not bringing any sort of harsh words on him in the wake of his death. Okay, he has just died in the past couple months, but I needed to disclaim that before I start telling this story. So, I get it. Sorry, my neighbors are yelling outside. I get a message on Facebook in 2014 from a guy named Rick Craven. I had heard about him. He plays locally. He's 118 years old. I mean, he's been doing it forever. And he's a veteran of his craft. You know, everybody knows who he is. Everybody loves him. And he carries like groups of 50 at every gig he plays. And he messages me. And he just straight up says, "How much are you making at Taj?" Well, I'm not as smart as it seems like I am. But just by genuine, just total luck, I didn't answer his request for how much I was making. I was just like, "Why do you want to know?" And he's like, "Well, some people around here have been undercutting the marketplace that I created, and basically saying I'm taking gigs from him because I'm doing stuff cheaper than he does, and he didn't appreciate it. So he said some harsh words about me, honestly, to his public Facebook page, and which has tons and tons and tons and tons of followers. But I was super distraught because at the end of the conversation, he's like, I can make it where you'll never play in this town again. And now I'm kind of wondering if it happened, but I'll get to that shortly. So, he said that, and I had been trying to get in this bar called Recovery Room, which had just opened, which I ultimately ended up working at for a couple of years. It was a beautiful experience, wonderful. So, I basically have played at that bar since they opened, but I had maybe played there once. It was like right when I was starting to like get over just playing at one place and then start down rolling and playing everywhere all around here and in Columbus and all that. But this was like right when I was right here. So I went to, I'd call, or everybody saw that he did it because he has so many connections. And the owner of Recovery Room called me, and he was like, can you come up here? And I lived in Hartford, which is 45, 50 minutes away from there. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess. I was just really, really bummed because I was like, I don't want anybody to hate me. Like, I need contacts. I want to do this seriously. I want to get out of this town, but I have to do this town first. You know, I have to step up every time. So I go up there, and he tells me, he's like, we saw what he said, it wasn't right. And then he showed me some screenshots of where all of the musicians around here who didn't even know me defended me. And that is just, to the day, one of the most amazing things anybody's ever done. I mean, people that I literally didn't know were telling this man to leave me alone. I mean, that's awesome. So, the owner of Recovery Room at the time basically told him, like, I don't want you in here if you're going to do stuff like that. And then I started gaining, like, extreme confidence. And I ended up getting an iPad, which helped with, I didn't have to carry around a big piece of cardboard with 90 songs on it. And then I started playing at places around here, started playing at Firestone and Folklore and all these places, started making contacts. And everything was awesome. And then there was just one day where I was playing at a bar, and I guess people didn't like that I had such variety. I guess people want me to play Wagon Wheel and Wagon Wheel only. So I played like some Frank Sinatra in the beginning of the night, and people were vibing with it as they usually do. And then I played some pop songs that were, you know, like modern pop songs, like Drops of Jupiter type modern pop songs. And basically the owner, he didn't threaten me, but he was like, hey, I need you to take some time and rework your set, think about the atmosphere, get a definite, you know, like vibe going, and then come back, and you're more than welcome to come back as soon as you get it figured out. And I kind of just took that as people aren't liking what you're playing, you need to get some stuff that people like. So I went home and got to the grind. I started learning all kinds of pop songs, and still to the day, I have not went back for that follow-up gig. It has probably been 3-4 years since then. And I still haven't followed up because I don't want it to be the last time I ever play there, because it's still near and dear to my heart. But after that, I kind of started getting a little bit discouraged. I had went on a super long streak of just murdering it, killing it everywhere I went. I was playing at every place in Dothan, Enterprise. I was playing in Columbus, Georgia. I started playing with a couple of different bands, too, that were playing all over the place. Played in Panama City a couple of times. I mean, it was the highest time of my life. And then that was kind of like the peak, and then come on back down to earth. You're not the best musician on planet Earth, okay? So, after that, I would it was like this weird curse. After that, I would message places and or call the same places that I've been playing since I was 16. At this point, I'm probably 19, 20. I would start calling the places, and they'd say, yeah, we'll put you on the book, and then they would double book me coincidentally or maybe not coincidentally. Maybe it was a total power move. I don't know what it was. And I would try and contact them and say, hey, I see where you're promoting someone else playing on the date that you had given me. What's going on? They'd read the message. And this was the same thing that happened at basically every bar I ever played at. And I don't know if it was my personality or if it was the very thing that my what do you call it? My adversary. I don't know what word I'm looking for. The guy had told me initially. Excuse me. I don't know if it was the very thing like, hey, you need to work on your set and come back. I don't know if it was that sort of thing or what. But ever since then, it's been steadily downcline. I even tried calling some of the easier places, like the places in Columbus that they basically will pay me $100 for a 2-hour drive. I mean, they don't care what I play. It's mostly military people. They tip well. Everything's fine up there. Even they started doing it. And I would try and record YouTube videos for a channel that'll never make profit, which makes it hard for the channel itself to grow. So it felt like I was doing it for no reason. I didn't really have any fans. I wasn't truly comfortable with the original songs that I was writing because all my mother ever told me was that my songs are too sad. You need to write a happy song. So it was extremely discouraging knowing that no place wanted me, and the songs that I was writing about how I felt were undesirable from a listener's standpoint. And I tried as much as someone can try, as many times as you can be told no before you just give up, you know. I did it as much as I could. And this has led up until recently, since I was 19, maybe 20 years old, until now, I've been denied at every place I've tried to play at. And I don't mean to give a pity party. I'm being as serious as I possibly can. If someone claims that I just didn't ask, it's false. I have asked to play at every place other than the first place that I told you about, that told me don't come back until you fix it. That one's on me. Every other place I've tried to hit up. One place that has always been consistent, and I have to give credit to, is Buchanan's in Ozark. They were great to me. I think they're called Donahue's now or whatever. But now I've kind of got to a groove of where I like recording my music. People will come over here periodically, and I'll give them a little tease of some of the stuff I've been working on lately. And the response has been, in general, pretty positive. They're sad, but they're poppy. You know, they're good sad. Like a say something, I'm giving up on you. But yeah, I've kind of got comfortable in my skin. I've started to realize, hey, you're just another musician, and I play because it makes me happy, not because I want to be successful, not because I'm chasing the high of performing in front of people, not that I want to prove that I'm better than anybody. There's no competitiveness. It's genuinely just because it's in my soul, and I have to get it out sometimes. I mean, several times a week, I just come into this very spot that you see me sitting. Of course, there's a lot less stuff in here, but I'll sit down and play a couple songs, and I'll just feel better. It's just I have to get it out. And sometimes it's talking about how I feel. Sometimes it's just hearing a song that I love that I've been playing for years. But yeah, if you want to watch the kind of unfolding of the 10-year anniversary, I've been recording periodically videos celebrating the 10-year anniversary, one of which I'm going to play here shortly. But I have now found a new it's not really super creative, but it is just an outlet to kind of get some of that anxiety out with these Pokemon cards, because I get to work with something that I've loved for 20 years. And it's not quite music, but it sure enough will get the job done. So let's talk about Influences, what got me into it. I guess at this point we can talk about these albums that are sitting next to me here. No, that's not just garbage sitting in my floor. Today, I would like to talk about my top 10 favorite albums slash some of the biggest influences I've ever had. One that I want to say before I get into this vinyl collection, the band Foo Fighters is a huge influence, and the band Say Anything is one of my absolute biggest influences. Both of them are absolutely huge influences, but they do not have albums on my top 10 list. The first album is technically number 11. I'm going to count down from 10 to 1, and this part is not necessarily visual, but it does have, if you want to look up the album, this is what the covers look like. The first album is technically number 11, which is an honorable mention just because it is phenomenal on vinyl, and in general it is just an amazing album. The first one is Sigh No More, which is the Mumford & Sons album. I believe this may be their debut album. This is at least the popular one. It has The Cave on it and Little Lion Man, which are absolute bangers that were on the radio. Number 10, which is the beginning of the actual official Flip H Cheese Mellow Mood cast, favorite top 10 albums of all time. This is probably going to be a bit of a shock for a lot of people, but this is In a Tidal Wave of Mystery, which is the Capital Cities debut album. They did make some singles and stuff, which technically do have albums on iTunes and stuff like that, but their big hit song was called Safe and Sound. This album, every single song on the album is amazing. Chasing You I don't prefer, but every song is amazing. I mean, they're all amazing. There is a little bit of profanity, just to be totally clear with that. Don't go into it thinking it's going to be about Jesus or anything like that. It's kind of a techno indie album. It has very weird, like, electric drums and piano, but there's this weird vibe where they use trumpet and everything. And their debut song is the one where it goes, I could lift you up, and then it has the iconic trumpet part, in case you're wondering what it was. Number 9? Or is this number 8? 9. So number 9, the cover is solid white because I think I believe that I have the deluxe version of it. But it's none other than the Continuum album with John Mayer. This album is super dope. I'm trying to get it at an angle. Maybe you can see his face. He's basically sitting on a train. I don't know if you can tell or not. It has Waiting on the World to Change and Gravity, Slow Dancing in a Burning Room on it, and that song Say, which was in a movie, I guess. Oh my God, John Mayer is just such a phenomenal guitar player, songwriter, and musician. That album is flawless from top to bottom. There's some songs that are burnt out, but it is still such an amazing album. Sounds phenomenal on vinyl as well, might I say. I believe this is number 8. A staple on every... I hate it when people call it punk rock, but honestly it is. I would say it's more alternative. American Idiot from Green Day. I almost left this album sealed, but I just had to hear it on vinyl. It is absolutely phenomenal. They have American Idiot, Holiday, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Wake Me Up When September Ends, you know, all of the staple songs that modern day Green Day fans will know. I believe the album came out in 2006. I don't know. I can't remember what's the actual date. 09. Wow, I was way off. 2009 when that album came out. But I can just remember in middle school vibing to every single song on that entire album. That was the first album I ever bought from Walmart that had the F word on it. I could not believe it. It was a CD. So this next album that's on my list is... It's kind of a sub out because the album that I actually have in this spot on my official top 10 list is still an unplugged album. Nirvana Unplugged is one of it probably is the best actual unplugged album of all time. But as far as personal preference goes, I can't honestly say that I enjoy this more than Seether One Cold Night. And it's mainly because of the nostalgia hit it gives me just from my dad. He adored that. It's like a weird fake album. Like, you can't really find it anywhere. But it's called One Cold Night, and it's Seether, a hard rock band, I guess you could call them. But it is so stinking good. If you enjoy acoustic versions of rock songs, that album is the freaking one. So, if I remember correctly, I think this is number 6 maybe. Maybe number 5, who cares? This is our first metal album on the list, and I have to represent some metalcore on the list. I bought this on Amazon several years ago. I think it was the first year I was out of high school, and the actual vinyl record came as this sky blue marble color, and I am just blown away. This album, from top to bottom, is just everything that you'd want from a metalcore album, from your heavy breakdowns to your extremely controlled, clean vocals. Lead guitar, drums are phenomenal. Even the bass player shines on this album. So yeah, let's move on down the list with another quick nostalgia hit. If you're a big Linkin Park fan, this one should hit you right there in the gonads there, bud. This is, I've never heard someone pronounce the name of this album. I've always called it Meteora. I used to call it Meteoria for some reason, but it's got Faint on it, which is one of their biggest ones in Breaking the Habit. But honestly, it may be just straight nostalgia speaking to me with that one, but I just genuinely think that's the greatest albums ever made in the history of mankind. I think we're looking at number 4 coming up here. If you guys have never heard of the band Bad Sons, this album will change your life. Every single song on this entire album is perfect to me. I absolutely adore this album. This album is the most listenable modern day album I've heard in years. It's from 2016. No one talks about it. The first 2 songs are arguably their best 2 songs they've ever made, and I mean, it's just it's a freaking amazing record. Bad Sons was influenced by South African music, and it definitely shows in their music. They do a lot of like kind of stuff, but it's basically just an indie album. It's an indie pop rock album. Oh my god, it's so amazing. If you guys like The Neighborhood or like weird You Think You're Cool bands that people like to listen to at the beach just to show that they have good taste in music, that'd be the tip of the mountain right there for you. Check out their Language and Perspective album. The song Cardiac Arrest is the best indie song ever made. Fight me. So we are here. We are in the top 3 albums, boys, and I believe that this album is I think this album can cure sadness, genuinely. I think that this album has magic inside of it. And to my surprise, the record itself is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, can it get any better than that, boys? Rastafari reggae music. If you are trying to get into Bob Marley, or you love Bob Marley, or even if you hate Bob Marley, if you think anything about Bob Marley and you have any interest in reggae, just check it out. Bob Marley Legend is the perfect reggae album, honestly. So these last 2 albums have flip-flopped in my head back and forth over and over again my entire, I guess you could say, life. But honestly, since I heard both of them, it is tough. And they are both metal albums, so Mom, I'm sorry. You're going to want to stay away from these, bud. But first off, of course, if you know me, you know I love Northlane. This is Northlane Node. This was right after their old vocalist left, and a lot of people sleep on this album. Of course, Gieselman knows what's up. And I believe this one was called Jawbreaker. Check that freaking record out, dude. Ugh, so disgusting. And it is flawless aside from one song, which is called Impulse. And honestly, in the hindsight of things, it's an amazing song too. I just don't like the content of the song. So alone in a digital world. Who cares? But every song that Northlane produces these days, well, I wouldn't say every song, 85% of the songs that Northlane produce, and that album specifically is themed towards it, are all songs about making the world a better place, stop destroying the planet, like we don't have much left here, we're all going to die if you don't stop. And it's hard, heavy pushing, very controlled, clean vocals with a little bit of loosey-goosey in his voice that is just the right kiss of perfection. Okay, so here we are, finally. If you know me, you're probably not surprised, but the greatest album of all time to me is Of Mice and Men the Flood. Honestly, this is the deluxe reissue. I think it's necessary to mention that because the original does not stand up without the calm, the storm, the flood, the depths. I think it adds an extremely strong dynamic. I don't know how interested people are in, I think they're called 44s, but this one's gold. This is the one that has the calm, the storm, the flood, the depths on it. But everything about this album is wonderful. I absolutely adore everything about Of Mice and Men the Flood, and it has actually become extremely and incredibly hard to find on vinyl for cheaper than expensive. So, with all that being said, that's my top 10. I may link them in the description below. If you want to check out the Two Sets of Hands stuff, I'll probably link that as well below. So, finally, I don't know how long this podcast is going to be, but I would like to showcase my record collection as of now. I have some pretty insane records as far as like modern day stuff goes. So, let's get after it, honestly. So the first thing that I have on my list here, the first thing I have is Guardians of the Galaxy, the best thing to listen to on vinyl ever. I mean, it is the best album to listen to ever. Basically, some of these records are super rare. Some of them are just amazing. This one is just super rare. The Iron Giant is super nostalgic, honestly, but check this record out. It was a 2000 print that I got from Second and Charles, getting close to a year ago. The record itself, who cares? It's literally just theatrical music for the movie The Iron Giant from the 90s. But one of my favorite, it's definitely top 3 favorite animated films ever. So, looks good in the collection, plus the record itself is phenomenal. Next up is, I don't even remember. So it's called Turn on the Bright Lights. It's an Interpol album. Interpol is a very robotic, dark indie band. I think that's what you can call it. They're like the Killers, if the Killers were sad. That album's pretty dope on vinyl, honestly. So, next up. I'll go through these quick. These are just necessary because I love the band. I have the 3 original A Perfect Circle records. As age has caught up with me, I've got to like the 13th Step album the most. But if you guys don't know who Tool is, you don't know who A Perfect Circle is. It's the lead singer of Tool. He has a chiller, more acoustic band. Next up is the dudes themselves. This is the debut Bad Sons album. Technically, their actual full debut album. They did make, it was called 20 Years. They made like a little EP, but this is their first full-length album. This is the one that changed everything for me. I mean, honestly, it's such an amazing record. I have to have it, and the album art is amazing. One day I'm going to get it posted all in my apartment and stuff. So. This next one is a tough one to find, But as I was saying in my heaviest influences, this is the Say Anything, self-titled Say Anything record. They have some absolute slapping bangers on here. They are like a punk rock indie band. They're very hard to explain. He does like a lot of like, the way he sings is like this. Like I don't know, he kind of sings like the Joker from The Dark Knight almost. So, I went through a period where every cent that I had went to record collection. I had to have Jar of Flies, and I still haven't listened to Sap. I know, don't fight me over it, but I'm trying to get to a place where I can. It's honestly necessary because my favorite song of all time is by Say Anything, but it's very close to Nutshell by Alice in Chains, and that's the album. So, that's the album that song is on. So, these last ones are it. This is the cream of the crop right here, boys. So, let's see what I got hiding for you. So, first of all, I have the Homesick, A Day to Remember album from 2009. This record is extremely hard to come by these days, and the record itself looks ridiculous. Look at that vinyl record. Oh my goodness gracious. I am honestly so thankful that I was able to find that one. Honestly, at a decent price as well. And from here, they only get rarer and rarer. Next up, I have the There Is a Hell, Believe Me, I've Seen It, There Is a Heaven, Let's Keep It a Secret album from Bring Me the Horizon. I can't remember if this record has a colored vinyl. It may not. And okay, yeah, it actually does. It's nothing too crazy, but it is just a gray marble one. I always like to get my rarest records with a colored vinyl. This is a metal album. If you guys didn't know, a lot of people know who Bring Me the Horizon is now only from their mainstream rock stuff, but they used to be an actual genuine metalcore band. Whew, they were something else too. So weirdly enough, I have one of their newer albums, and that's the next one in my box here. So this next record is called Sempiternal. It's from Bring Me the Horizon as well. I think this record is just straight up gold. There's no need in showing. It's not like a shiny gold. It's just colored gold. It's nothing cool. But this album has some absolutely amazing songs like Shadow Moses and Sleepwalking. And Can You Feel My Heart is my favorite Bring Me the Horizon song. That album is worth a listen. All the songs on it probably are good that I can remember. Of course, some stand out more than others. The next rarest vinyl I have is the Northlane Mesmer album. This version of this record in itself has just become insanely hard to find. This is the neon pink version. Oh my god, look at that freaking record. I do not love this record. It is definitely one that I like. I try to only keep records that I love, but since I'm a genuine Northlane fan, I have kind of had to collect a couple that I'm not super insanely in love with. That freaking record is amazing looking though. Next up is I Prevail, Trauma. I was super into this record for about 2 months. It is one of my favorite. It's metalcore, but it's starting to become new metal, which is what Linkin Park was back in the day. This record, if I remember, is super sick looking. Let's see what we're dealing with here. Oh yeah, that pink and clear. Oh, so sweet. Check them out if you haven't heard them. They have a couple of super heavy songs on it, but for the most part, it's pretty controlled. Honestly, it's just like hard rock to me, honestly. So next, I've got the Northlane Alien record. If you can see, this right here is the actual vinyl itself. Honestly, the list that I'm doing showing my record collection, it could have been a video in itself, but it's all good. This is their newest record as of right now that has come out. and I had to get it. It just looks so sick. This is of Mice and Men Restoring Force. I was more hyped for this album when it came out than any album I've ever heard, ever. And it was extremely underwhelming, but at the end of the day, it's the last good album that they ever made. It's far from perfect, but it was still metal. There's a lot of just rocky songs, but it was still a metal record. It was starting to teeter-totter off before Austin left, and I had to own that because it was still one of Mice and Men was my favorite band, and I adore the band still to the day, just in a very different way. Next up, these are the 3 rarest albums that I own right here. This is the top 3. Attack Attack, This Means War. This album is really freaking hard to find, especially in person. And the record itself looks freaking dope. Look at that. God bless it, dude. So good. This is another metal album, of course. And I was just super into this album in general when it came out. Every album is like the something, so it's like the Motivation, the Revolution, that kind of stuff. It was... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to bump you like that. Sorry. There's nothing that really stands out to me from the album itself. All the songs are consistently good, and it's a record that's definitely worth owning. So, Attack Attack's singer, Caleb Schmoyo, or however you pronounce it, I literally have no idea. He left and he made this band called Beartooth. I've heard they're a Christian band. I'm not sure. Every song on this album is decent. Definitely check out the lines. This album is nearly impossible to find pretty much anywhere. I was ecstatic when I found it, and it comes with stickers. The album itself is just solid white, which is, cool. Tempting to draw on, admittedly. I would probably say This Means War is a little bit better in terms of just listening experience itself. But finally, La Piste de Résistance, my rarest record I have ever owned and probably will ever own. Surprise, surprise, it's of Mice and Men. And I am still mad at myself for opening this. But the good news is that I can show you what the record itself looks like and give you a brief story of how I came about it. This is the coolest looking record. It is the best. It is the rarest record. Everything about it is absolutely phenomenal. I will never get over the fact that I own that record. It is so stinking good. As a listening experience, as the way it looks, how rare it is, everything's amazing. When I was in college, the first year I was in college, I was just looking for some merch because I was starting to get super into it. And there was a pre-order for a very limited repress of their initial album right before The Flood came out. And I liked Of Mice and Men, but I didn't love them yet because The Flood had not come out yet. So I pre-ordered it and scooped it. And, of course, I forget about it, and it shows up in May. Of course, I'm excited, so I bust it open and check out the record, and my mind is blown. It is fairly expensive now. But, yeah. For today's rec, I guess I would suggest you guys, if you're into metal, checking out any of the albums that I dropped today. And if you're not, listen to Bad Sons Disappear Here, just the entire album. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful record. And with all that being said, I definitely talked a lot and enjoyed this episode of the podcast, and I look forward to talking at you next week. And I will try to be as seamless about ending this video as I possibly can. Just kidding. It's time for a song. Yikes, dude. So I'm going to try and be super professional. And, of course, remember the audio is going to be scuffed because I'm just sitting here with a microphone. How about I give us a little bit of little reverb. All right, here we go. So this song is by Sam Henshaw, and it's called "Broke." I think a lot of people can identify with the content of the song. Sorry, there's no way this guitar is just gonna like stay in tune. But yeah, I hope you like it. It's been a week from hell. I lost my job at Five Guys. My girl just kicked me out. She says I'm lame. Maybe she's got a point. Who gets the sack from Five Guys? She thinks I'm so incapable of change. But I can cut down on some sleep, give you what you need, take time to make time, girl. I can stop procrastinating. Whoa, be a little more prepared, show you that I care. I'll love you, I swear, girl. Oh, whoa. But tell me, if I wasn't broke, would you spend more time with me like you said you do? What I'm supposed to do, 'cause the only thing I need is to be loved by you. I'm starting out my 7th day of sofa surfing, parading in my Calvins with no shame. So I sit and think to myself, I've hit the low. But look around and see no one to blame. Maybe I can cut down on my sleep, give you what you need, take time to make time. I can stop procrastinating. Whoa, be a little more prepared, show you that I care. I love you, I swear, girl. Oh, but tell me, if I wasn't broke, would you spend more time with me like you said you do? Tell me what I'm supposed to do, 'cause the only thing I need is to be loved. Whoa, 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 whoa. If I wasn't broke, would you spend more time with me like you said you do? Tell me what I'm supposed to do, 'cause the only thing I need is to be loved by you. Thanks for stopping by.